The day after Queen Elizabeth II passed away, the royal balance of power quietly shifted. Almost overnight, Prince William found himself in control of one of Britain's most powerful and profitable royal estates. Ancient lands, historic properties, and a financial empire built over centuries were suddenly under his authority. But within weeks, one unexpected decision sent shockwaves through the royal circle, especially among relatives of Queen Camilla. A trusted family figure was quietly removed from the payroll, triggering whispers across palace corridors. So what exactly happened inside the estate, and why did it spark such anger? The crown's hidden empire fell into William's hands. On September 8, 2022, the world received the news that changed the course of the British royal family forever. At Balmoral Castle in the Scottish Highlands, Queen Elizabeth II passed away after a reign that had lasted more than 70 years. Within hours, centuries of royal tradition moved into motion. Titles shifted, roles transformed. Authority quietly passed from one generation to the next. At the center of this historic transition stood Prince William. When his father became King Charles III, William did not simply gain a new title. By long-standing royal law, he automatically became the Duke of Cornwall, placing him in control of the powerful Duchy of Cornwall. For most people, the name might sound ceremonial, almost symbolic, but in reality, it represents one of the most valuable and influential private estates in the world. Almost overnight, William found himself responsible for a vast financial and agricultural empire worth around $1.2 billion. The duchy stretches across roughly 135,000 acres of land throughout England. These are not just scattered properties or isolated farms. The holdings include entire landscapes that have been carefully managed and expanded for generations. Rolling farmland, historic villages, tenant farms, coastal property, and investment portfolios all form part of the estate. Among the most striking pieces of this inheritance are lands connected to the Isles of Scilly, an archipelago off the coast of Cornwall, known for its dramatic cliffs, clear waters, and historic settlements. The duchy controls nearly the entire island group, giving the estate influence over one of the most unique coastal regions in Britain. The reach of the estate does not stop there. Vast tracts of land extend into Devon, including parts of the rugged landscapes near Dartmoor. Other properties are spread across Herefordshire and Somerset, areas known for their farmland, historic estates, and deep agricultural traditions. Together, these lands form a network that has been growing in value for centuries. For William, this inheritance was about far more than prestige. The Duchy of Cornwall generates millions of dollars in income every year through farming rents, commercial leases, tourism properties, and financial investments. That income helps fund the work and responsibilities of the heir to the throne. In other words, William did not simply become the owner of land. He became the manager of a massive private economy tied directly to the future of the monarchy. And yet the scale of what had just happened was easy to overlook. While the public focused on mourning a beloved queen and watching the accession of a new king, another story was unfolding quietly in the background. A 40-year-old prince had suddenly become one of the most powerful landowners in Britain, responsible for decisions that could affect thousands of people living and working across those estates. For nearly 700 years, the Duchy of Cornwall has belonged to the monarch's eldest son and heir to the throne. Each new duke inherits not only the land, but also the responsibility to guide it into the future. Now that responsibility belonged to William, but as he began to examine the vast network of finances, contracts, and employees connected to the estate, it became clear that change was coming, and the first decisions he made would send unexpected ripples through the royal household. What hidden pressures lurk behind 7 centuries of royal tradition? As William steps into the Duchy of Cornwall, which choices will ignite whispers, rivalries, and secrets no outsider was ever meant to see? Let's unravel the details. The decision that shook the duchy's inner circle. As the weight of his new responsibilities settled in, Prince William's attention turned to the less visible side of his inheritance. The Duchy of Cornwall's vast lands, historic estates, and the intricate network of finances, contracts, and long-standing professional relationships built over decades. If he was to guide this centuries-old estate into the future, the first step was clear. He needed a careful review of how it was being managed. Royal estates of this size do not run on tradition alone. Every property, tenant farm, rental cottage, and commercial investment is part of a massive financial structure. William quietly began examining accounts, operations, staff, decision-making processes, and financial flows. To those accustomed to his father Charles's management, this may have seemed routine. Yet, it soon led to a decision that startled many within royal circles. One name stood out: Annabel Elliot. She was not just another interior designer. She was Queen Camilla's younger sister and a trusted family member. Over the years, she had built a strong reputation, blending traditional English country style with modern comfort. Her work was evident across multiple duchy properties, particularly holiday cottages rented throughout England and Wales. Her connection to the duchy began after King Charles III married Camilla in 2005. At that time, Charles, then Prince of Wales and Duke of Cornwall, hired Annabel to design and maintain interiors for several duchy properties. Over nearly 2 decades, she became a familiar figure within this professional circle, shaping the look and feel of residences guests now associate with the estate. Financial records show her payments ranged from £19,625 to £82,272 annually, modest compared to the estate's enormous value. Yet her presence symbolized something deeper: the close professional ties surrounding Charles during his long stewardship. Then, William assumed control. After reviewing the estate's structure and spending, he quietly decided that Annabel Elliot would no longer be employed by the duchy. Her role, held for nearly 20 years, came to an end. There was no public criticism or dramatic announcement. Reports emphasized that the decision did not reflect on her talent or past contributions. However, within royal circles, the implications were unmistakable. William was beginning to reshape the duchy according to his priorities, signaling a move towards staffing people he personally trusted. Simultaneously, several of William's close associates began appearing in duchy roles, including individuals with personal ties to him and his children. For observers, the message was clear: the next generation of royal leadership was taking form. For some in Camilla's extended family, this felt like a sudden closing of doors that had been open for years. What appeared as a simple staffing change became symbolic within the delicate web of royal relationships. To fully grasp why this decision carried such emotional weight inside palace walls, it is essential to understand the complex personal history intertwining William, Camilla, and the events that shaped their family long before he inherited the duchy. What may seem a managerial choice was, in reality, the opening act of a generational shift, one that would define the future of the duchy and the evolving dynamics of the royal family. Beneath the polished halls of the duchy, old rivalries and hidden loyalties stir. Was William's choice truly about management, or a deliberate move echoing decades of family secrets, reshaping the monarchy's future in ways no outsider could ever predict? Let's find out. Shadows from the past that still shape the present. For many observers, the removal of Annabel Elliot from the payroll of the Duchy of Cornwall looked like a simple administrative decision: a new duke reviewing the estate, a restructuring of staff, a routine change in leadership. But inside the royal family, few decisions exist in isolation. History has a way of echoing through even the smallest choices, and in this case, the past reaches back decades. To understand why the moment carried such emotional weight, it is impossible to ignore the long and complicated story that shaped the lives of Prince William and his family. Long before he inherited control of the duchy, William grew up in the middle of one of the most public and painful chapters in modern royal history. At the center of that story was his mother, Princess Diana. During the early years of her marriage to King Charles III, Diana quickly became one of the most admired figures in the world. Her warmth, compassion, and ability to connect with ordinary people transformed the public image of the monarchy. Yet behind the scenes, the marriage was under immense strain. The relationship between Charles and Queen Camilla had never fully disappeared, and over time it became impossible to hide. In 1994, Charles openly acknowledged the relationship during a widely discussed interview. The The revelation confirmed years of rumors and placed Diana in an incredibly difficult position. For the public, it was shocking. For the two young princes at the heart of the family, it was deeply personal. William and his younger brother Harry were still children, watching their parents' marriage unravel under the glare of global attention. Newspapers across Britain and beyond filled their pages with headlines, photographs, and commentary. The private struggles of their parents became daily public conversation. It was an environment that would shape how both boys viewed loyalty, family, and the responsibilities of royal life. Then tragedy struck. In August 1997, the world was stunned by the sudden death of Princess Diana in a car crash in Paris. William was only 15 years old. His brother Harry was 12. Overnight, they became symbols of national grief, walking behind their mother's coffin in a moment that millions of people still remember. The loss left a permanent mark on both of them, not only as sons mourning their mother, but also as young members of a royal institution trying to find stability during an intensely emotional time. As the years passed, the family slowly moved forward. Charles eventually married Camilla in 2005. William attended the ceremony and publicly showed respect for his father's choice. In official appearances, he has maintained a calm and courteous relationship with his stepmother, never allowing personal history to turn into open conflict. Yet respect does not automatically erase memory, and it does not mean that professional decisions inside a major royal estate are made without careful boundaries. William's role as Duke of Cornwall requires him to treat the duchy as a serious business, not as a place where family connections determine influence. Seen through this lens, his recent decisions appear less personal and more practical. The responsibility he carries is enormous. The Duchy of Cornwall is not simply a collection of historic houses or countryside views. It is a powerful financial institution that supports the heir to the throne and shapes the future stability of the monarchy. And the deeper William looked into the scale and complexity of the estate he now controlled, the clearer it became that the story of the duchy was far bigger than most people outside the royal world ever imagined. Beneath the grandeur of castles and rolling estates lies a secret web of wealth and power. Could Prince William's stewardship of the Duchy of Cornwall reveal forces that have quietly shaped the monarchy for centuries? Keep watching. The 7th-century fortune behind the title. To truly understand the weight of the responsibilities now resting on Prince William, it helps to step back and look at the extraordinary history behind the estate he controls. The Duchy of Cornwall is not simply a large piece of land handed down through inheritance. It is a financial and historical institution that has been quietly growing for centuries. The story begins in the year 1337, when Edward III created the duchy for his eldest son, Edward the Black Prince. At that moment, a royal tradition was born that would continue for nearly 700 years. The charter declared that the Duchy of Cornwall would always belong to the monarch's eldest surviving son and heir to the throne. With that decision, a permanent economic foundation was established for future heirs of the British monarchy. Over the centuries, generation after generation added to the estate. Land was acquired, farms were developed, investments were expanded. What started as a medieval grant of territory slowly grew into one of the most remarkable private estates in the world. By the time William inherited it, the duchy had become a vast network of land, businesses, and financial holdings spread across England. Unlike royal palaces that are owned by the state, the duchy functions more like a powerful private enterprise. Its land supports hundreds of tenant farmers who live and work on properties connected to the estate. Agricultural fields stretch across large areas of countryside, producing food while generating rental income that flows back into the duchy's finances. Tourism also plays a role. Holiday cottages located on duchy lands welcome visitors who want to experience the landscapes and traditions of rural England. These cottages are carefully maintained and often sit in some of the most scenic parts of the country, attracting guests from across Britain and beyond. Beyond farms and holiday homes, the duchy also holds financial investments that have been developed and managed over many years. Together, these different sources of income create a steady flow of revenue that supports the public and private duties of the heir to the throne. The scale of that income can be surprising. Reports suggest that by the year 2025, William received roughly $30 million generated through the duchy's operations. That money is not simply personal spending money. It helps fund his official work, his household, and the many responsibilities connected to representing the monarchy, both in Britain and internationally. What makes the duchy especially unique is the way ownership passes from one generation to the next. Unlike ordinary estates that are divided among heirs or sold over time, the Duchy of Cornwall follows a strict rule that has remained unchanged since the 14th century. Whenever a new monarch takes the throne, the estate automatically transfers to the next heir in line. There is no negotiation and no delay. The shift happens immediately. That is exactly what occurred when King Charles III became king in 2022. In a single moment, the duchy passed directly into William's hands. The lands, the businesses, and the centuries of accumulated wealth all became his responsibility. Yet even this remarkable estate represents only one piece of a much larger royal property network. Beyond the duchy lie other estates that carry enormous financial and symbolic importance for the monarchy, properties that have long served as private sanctuaries for the royal family and that may one day fall under William's ownership as well. Could Prince William truly command them all? Or are some of these private kingdoms hiding power even he cannot control? Stay with us. The private kingdoms that shape royal power. While the Duchy of Cornwall represents a powerful financial foundation for the heir to the throne, it is only one part of a much larger picture. Hidden behind the public image of royal palaces and official residences are two estates that hold an even deeper personal meaning for the monarchy. These properties are not owned by the British state. They belong directly to the monarch and pass quietly from one sovereign to the next. And within the royal family, control of these estates often carries enormous influence. The two properties at the center of this tradition are Sandringham House in Norfolk and Balmoral Castle in the Scottish Highlands. For generations, these estates have served as private retreats where members of the royal family could step away from the pressures of public life. Unlike grand ceremonial palaces such as Buckingham Palace, which belong to the crown and are used for official duties, Sandringham and Balmoral are personal properties. Their ownership follows a line of inheritance within the royal family, rather than being managed by government institutions. Balmoral Castle carries a particularly rich history that stretches back to the 19th century. The estate was purchased by Prince Albert as a gift for his wife, Queen Victoria. From the moment Victoria first visited the rugged landscapes of the Scottish Highlands, she fell deeply in love with the area. Balmoral soon became a cherished refuge for the royal family, a place where they could spend time together, away from London and the constant attention of the public. Sandringham House, located in the quiet countryside of Norfolk, developed a similar reputation. Over time, it became closely associated with royal family traditions, especially during the Christmas season when generations of monarchs gathered there with relatives and close friends. These estates witnessed countless private moments in royal history, moments of celebration, reflection, and sometimes sorrow. Both properties eventually came into the possession of Queen Elizabeth II, who inherited them from her father, King George VI. During her long reign, Balmoral and Sandringham remained central to her life. They were places where she could ride horses, walk through the countryside, and spend time with family away from the formal demands of the monarchy. When Elizabeth passed away in 2022 at Balmoral Castle, ownership of these deeply personal estates moved once again to the next monarch. They became the private property of King Charles III. Today, Charles and Queen Camilla spend time at both locations. Sandringham continues to host royal family gatherings and remains one of the most familiar country retreats associated with the monarchy. Balmoral, surrounded by vast Scottish landscapes and forests, still holds its reputation as a quiet sanctuary for the royal household. Yet the story of these estates does not end with the current king. Royal inheritance follows a long chain that moves from one generation to the next. When the time eventually comes for the crown to pass again, these properties will follow that same path. That means that one day, both Sandringham House and Balmoral Castle are expected to pass into the hands of Prince William when he becomes king. Control over these estates will give him authority over some of the most treasured private lands connected to the British monarchy. And within royal circles, control over such places often determines who holds influence, who is welcomed into those spaces and who quietly finds themselves standing outside their gates. And that reality raises an important question about the future, because while Camilla currently shares these estates as the king's wife, the moment ownership changes again could reshape her position in ways that remain uncertain. When Prince William inherits Sandringham and Balmoral, will centuries of tradition quietly shift? Who will rise? Who will be sidelined? And could one unexpected decision reshape royal influence forever? Stay glued. A powerful role today, an uncertain tomorrow. At this moment in time, Queen Camilla holds one of the most secure positions within the British royal family. As the wife of King Charles III, she carries the title of Queen Consort and stands beside the monarch in both ceremonial and public life. Her role has gradually grown over the years, moving from a controversial figure in the early days of her relationship with Charles to a central presence within the modern monarchy. Today she appears regularly at royal engagements, represents charitable causes, and shares many of the responsibilities that come with supporting the king. Her daily life unfolds within some of the most recognizable royal residences in Britain. Among them is Buckingham Palace, the historic headquarters of the monarchy where major state events, ceremonies, and official receptions take place. Another important residence connected to the royal couple is Clarence House, a grand London home that has long served as Charles's personal residence. These places form the center of the royal household, where the king and queen carry out much of their work. For Camilla, the journey to this position has not been simple. Long before becoming queen consort, she lived a quieter life, away from the formal structure of the royal court. One of the places most closely associated with that earlier chapter of her life was Ray Mill House, a countryside property she owned in Wiltshire. The home became known as her personal retreat, a peaceful place where she enjoyed gardening and spending time away from the constant attention that surrounds royal life. In recent years, however, Camilla made the decision to sell Ray Mill House. Some observers interpreted the move as a sign that she was fully committing to her life within the royal household alongside Charles. Others saw it as a practical step, reflecting how her responsibilities as queen consort had expanded and required her to spend more time within official royal residences. For now, her position appears stable and well supported. As long as Charles remains on the throne, Camilla shares the privileges and influence that come with being the king's wife. She moves comfortably between royal homes such as Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, and the countryside estates that belong to the monarch. Yet royal history has always been shaped by the passing of time and the inevitable transitions between generations. If the moment were to come when Charles dies before Camilla, her role would change again. In that situation, she would likely become Queen Dowager, a title traditionally used for the widow of a king. Such a shift would also affect the ownership of some of the most important royal estates. Properties like Sandringham House and Balmoral Castle do not remain with the spouse of a former monarch. They pass directly to the next king. That means they would eventually come under the control of Prince William once he inherits the throne. In practical terms, this would place William in the position of deciding how those estates are used and who spends time within them. Camilla could still be welcomed as a member of the family, but her presence would no longer come from ownership or authority. Instead, it would depend on the goodwill of the next monarch. This possibility highlights why William's current approach to managing royal estates is attracting so much attention. Every decision he makes today offers a small glimpse into how he might one day lead the monarchy and shape the environment that surrounds it. As William weighs control over centuries-old estates, every choice ripples through the palace. Will tradition bend to a new vision, or is this subtle shift the first sign of a monarchy transformed forever? Stay tuned. The subtle shift that signals a new era. Some of the most significant changes within the royal family rarely make headlines. They unfold quietly, behind the palace walls, in meetings, financial reports, and staffing decisions that few outsiders ever notice. But for those who watch closely, these small moves speak volumes about the future of the monarchy. For Prince William, taking control of the Duchy of Cornwall offered more than responsibility. It provided an opportunity to shape his own vision for royal leadership. Since assuming control, William has methodically restructured the duchy's management. Positions once held by longtime associates of King Charles III and members of Queen Camilla's family have been reassessed. Among those brought into positions of influence are trusted friends and close confidants, such as Harry Aubrey Fletcher and William Van Cutsem. Their presence signals a subtle but unmistakable shift. William is surrounding himself with people whose priorities align with his approach, creating a team that reflects both personal trust and professional competence. Observers note that this is not a story of revenge or personal animosity toward Camilla or her relatives. Instead, it is a calculated demonstration of leadership and independence. William is laying the groundwork for how he intends to manage royal estates, financial responsibilities, and ultimately, the monarchy itself. Every choice, from payroll changes to staffing decisions, sends a clear message that the next generation of leadership is preparing to assert itself. This transition is as much about values as it is about personnel. By choosing whom to place in key roles, William is signaling the type of monarchy he envisions, one that blends tradition with efficiency, stewardship with modern management, and personal discretion with public accountability. The subtle reshuffling of the duchy may appear administrative on paper, but its implications ripple far beyond the estate's borders. Those who have relied on connections forged during Charles's decades-long tenure are now facing uncertainty, highlighting the delicate balance between continuity and change in royal life. In essence, William's actions illustrate a quiet but unmistakable reality. The era of Charles's close circle overseeing the duchy and its associated estates is gradually giving way to a new chapter under William's guidance. This measured, almost invisible shift represents the beginning of a generational handover. The monarchy is evolving, and the decisions made today are already shaping how power, influence, and legacy will be managed for years to come. So, what do you think? Could William's bold approach finally modernize the monarchy, or is it secretly driving an even deeper rift within the royal family? We'd love your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.